The double-bladed lightsaber, the saberstaff, the cosmic bowstaff of doom, whatever you call it, it's one of the most iconic weapons in Star Wars. When Darth Maul ignited both ends in the trailer for The Phantom Menace, fans collectively lost their minds. But here's the thing, Maul wasn't the first to use one. In Star Wars Legends continuity, the double-bladed lightsaber history stretches back thousands of years. It shows up in the hands of Sith warlords and Jedi prodigies alike, most of whom meet some pretty untimely ends. So today on Lore of Legends, we're going to walk through the major double-bladed lightsaber users in the Legends timeline, starting all the way back in ancient Sith history and ending with the Clone Wars. Along the way, we'll cover their stories, their weapons, and some behind-the-scenes notes about how these characters were created. Let's dive in. We begin with a guy whose name sounds less like a Sith warlord and more like a computer error message, Warb Null. Introduced in Marvel's Tales of the Jedi comics in the mid-90s, Warb was a Sith warrior and armorsmith during the Great Hyperspace War, around 5,000 years before Darth Maul's infamous double-bladed entrance. His weapon wasn't exactly the sleek, balanced staff we later see Maul using, though. It was a clunky, long-handled bruiser of a lightsaber. In the comic, he's only depicted wielding its single green blade, but a short story from Star Wars Insider issue 147 revealed more about the ancient weapon, including a second shorter crimson blade which emitted from the opposing end. The two blades couldn't be used simultaneously though, making the weapon almost as weird and clunky as its original user, who met a quick and satisfying end at the hands of Jedi Ula Keldroma. Next is Exar Kun, the golden boy turned galactic menace. Sound familiar? Originally a promising Jedi, he fell to the dark side, declared himself Dark Lord of the Sith, and basically tried to burn the galaxy down. Classic Sith resume. Another Tales of the Jedi comics debut, Exar Kun's saberstaff is arguably the first true double-bladed lightsaber in Legends. He wasn't just swinging around a heavy stick with blades on both ends like Warb Null, his was sleek, refined, and deadly, including the ability to detach into two individual sabers. Exar Kun's spirit later reprised his role as the big bad in Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Academy trilogy. He's one of the few Legend Sith whose spirit sticks around to torment Luke Skywalker and the gang thousands of years later, which, honestly, is a level of pettiness that I respect. Fast forward a few decades to the Knights of the Old Republic era, and we meet Uthar Wynn, head of the Sith Academy on Korriban. If Exar Kun was a rockstar student, Uthar was a sadistic high school principal. Uthar Wynn trained countless Sith hopefuls, many of whom carried saber staves, and he himself wielded one. Mechanically, this comes from the 2003 video game Knights of the Old Republic, where the player could choose to build a double-bladed lightsaber too. Uthar's use of one was partly a gameplay reflection, making him look cool while also hinting at his mastery of Sith combat styles. He's not the flashiest figure on the list, but he represents how by this era, saberstaffs were becoming an actual Sith tradition rather than a rare anomaly. Speaking of Knights of the Old Republic, we can't forget Bastilla Shan, Jedi Knight, battle meditation prodigy, and love interest for Revan depending on your playthrough. Bastilla wielded a yellow double-bladed lightsaber which was instantly iconic. Her weapon choice was meant to underline her uniqueness as a Jedi. She wasn't just another robed do-gooder, she was a rising star with her own style. In gameplay terms, it also made her stand out in party battles as the only lightsaber wielder in the party for the initial chunk of the game. From a lore perspective, Bastilla shows that saberstaffs weren't purely a Sith toy. A few Jedi did pick them up, though they were quite rare. And Bastilla's legacy carried forward, quite literally through her descendant Satele Shan, but more on her later. Originally, Bandon was just another Jedi Padawan during the Jedi Civil War, but like a lot of Padawans at the time, he fell to the dark side, pledged himself to Darth Malak, and actually rose to apprentice under the Dark Lord himself, but he really just ended up being the Star Wars equivalent of bully who peaked in high school. In Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Bandon plays the critical role of previously unbeatable enemy turned mini-boss who illustrates how powerful the player has become. And that's about it. He talks big, swings a scary double-bladed lightsaber around, and then promptly gets wrecked by Revan and their party. Not exactly a legacy-shaking moment, but he does earn the honor of being one of the earlier named Expanded Universe characters to carry a saberstaff. So, in summary, Darth Bandon, Sith apprentice, saberstaff enthusiast, and definitive, you're not even the final boss moment. Now we move into the Old Republic era, where cinematic trailers started making everyone look like a lightsaber god. Darth Vindican was one of the first major Sith seen in the Old Republic marketing, dueling Jedi Master Cowson Derek with his saberstaff. Vindican was a Sith pureblood, meaning he descended from the original Sith species, which immediately made him look ancient and intimidating. In terms of story, he wasn't around long. His apprentice Malgus quickly overshadowed him, both in terms of power and edgelord aura. But in terms of visuals, Vindican's saberstaff helped cement the idea that this era was overflowing with flashy theatrical duels. Carrying the family torch is Satele Shan, descendant of Bastilla. By the time of the Old Republic, she was the Jedi Grandmaster and one of the most powerful Force users of her era. Like her ancestor, she also wielded a saberstaff, but this time with blue blades. Satele's weapon of choice tied her back to Bastilla, visually showing the lineage of strength and individuality in the Shan bloodline. Out of universe, her double-bladed saber also made her stand out in these cinematic trailers. She was instantly recognizable as the Jedi with the double-bladed lightsaber. She's one of the first characters to prove you can be an inspiring Jedi leader and still rock the coolest weapon in the room, but she certainly wasn't the last. Next is a deep cut you probably only know if you played The Force Unleashed Ultimate Sith Edition or read some obscure databank entries. Darth Phobos. She was a Sith lady who specialized in fear and illusions, taking down Jedi and Sith alike in a bid for power. And her double-bladed saber was part of her nightmare-inducing image, which earned her a fanatical following of cultists, as well as the nickname The Hidden Fear. In-game, she's relegated to the role of a holographic training boss for Darth Vader's secret apprentice Starkiller, but she remains a unique antagonist who required the combined strength of the Jedi and Sith in order to finally take her down. Her canon status was always a bit wobbly, but she's basically a reminder that the galaxy is full of spooky Sith with saberstaffs we barely know about, lurking in databanks like forgotten trading cards. Jumping forward a few millennia, we have Darth Zannah, apprentice to Darth Bane and the inheritor of the Sith Rule of Two. Zannah wielded a saberstaff, but with a very different combat philosophy. Instead of the Maul-style aggression, she used it defensively, keeping enemies at bay while she wove terrifying Sith sorcery into the fight. Out of universe, she was created for Drew Karpyshyn's Darth Bane trilogy, which fleshed out how the Rule of Two really worked. Zannah's staff symbolized how she wasn't just a copy of Bane. She fought using a signature style that appealed to her unique strengths. She's a fascinating figure because she proved that saberstaff combat could be about finesse and tactics, not just spinning angrily at Jedi like certain modern-day baddies. And now we get to the man, the myth, the marketing campaign, Darth Maul. When that second blade hissed out in the Phantom Menace trailer, it was a cultural reset. Kids were suddenly taping broomsticks together to duel in the backyard. In-universe, Maul was trained from birth by Darth Sidious as a living weapon. His double-bladed saber fit his acrobatic Feral Form 7 fighting style perfectly. Out of universe, his design was all about shocking the audience. George Lucas and concept artist Ian McCraig wanted a new weapon that looked instantly dangerous and new, and Maul's saberstaff did exactly that. He didn't get nearly as much live-action screen time as he deserved, but his weapon was burned into pop culture forever. So much so that he was given posthumous plot armor to bring him back and flesh him out as a much more integral and deep character than what we got in 1999. Then we have Asajj Ventress, Dooku's apprentice and one of the great characters to come out of the Clone Wars era. Ventress usually fought with two individual curved hilt lightsabers, but they could also connect at the pommels to form a unique S-shaped saberstaff. This flexibility gave her combat a unique flair, dual wielding for speed and then locking them together for raw power. Out of universe, her weapon reflected the experimental designs of the early 2000s when the Clone Wars cartoons were trying to one-up Maul's style with every villain. Ventress is proof that sometimes two lightsabers are better than one, but three configurations are even edgier. Next, we have Savage Opress, Maul's brother and Sith apprentice 2.0. Unlike Maul's finesse, Savage was all brute force, swinging around an oversized double-bladed lightsaber that perfectly reflected this beefcake baddie. Behind the scenes, Savage was designed as a kind of what-if Maul, but bigger and meaner character. His weapon mirrored Maul's to make the connection obvious, but his fighting style was intentionally less refined. He's the Hulk smash version of the double-bladed lightsaber wielder. And finally, we have Pong Krell, the infamous Bessalist Jedi general who turned traitor during the Clone Wars. In line with his 4 arms, Krell dual-wielded 2 double-bladed lightsabers because not only was he just the worst, but clearly also had a flair for the theatrical. In-universe, the betrayal of the clones and his overwhelming combat style made him one of the deadliest foes in the Clone Wars series. Out of universe, his design was basically the animators saying, "You thought Maul was scary? Let's give a 4-armed giant 2 saber stabs and let him loose." It was ridiculous, it was over the top, and it was unforgettable. So that's our journey, from Warb Null's clunky Sith barbarian staff to Pong Krell's double saber insanity. Over thousands of years, Star Wars Legends saw the double-bladed lightsaber evolve from a weird Sith experiment to one of the most fearsome and, let's be honest, dramatic weapons in the galaxy. If you enjoyed this exploration into saberstaff wielders, give the video a thumbs up. It might not be much to you, but it really helps out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden histories of a galaxy far, far away. I'll see you next time.